how to use reactive forms by using form group and form control, and how to use a form builder. We learned about this. And the two important methods are there. In form builder, we used a form group and we used a form control. Group, it configures form, right? And control, it configures controls. That means input, select, text area, all these are defined by using control. We have two options. So what is advantage of form builder? Already I told you, form builder is a service. What that service is, it will use a singleton pattern. Singleton pattern. So memory is not newly allocated every time. So memory is allocated only once. If you are looking for continuous form operations, then we can go with form builder. Discrete operations, then you can use form control and form group. You have another important, so that is array. So array is nothing but actually it configures a collection of controls. Array configures a collection of controls. You can have a collection of multiple controls in an array. What is advantage of array is you can add or remove controls dynamically. Remove controls dynamically. That is the advantage of using array. So you can add or remove controls dynamically. We will see today one example how we can add or remove controls. Right. First, already we designed a form and two more methods we learned. One more method you learned, we have a method called update. Update and we have patch. Patch value and update value. Two options are there. Yesterday I showed you update value is nothing but it updates all fields. If you want to update only few fields, then you can use patch. It updates specific fields. Yesterday that example I showed you. You can update all the fields or any specific field. So we will see how we can dynamically add or remove controls. First, we are running this project. Here we have reactive component. Now what is our intention? I will tell you a simple point. Suppose we have an option like all the product details. We designed a form with all the details. We are designing a form with all the details like name and like price. And we have an option upload photo. And here for a product, user can upload multiple photos. Then what we are doing here is we are giving a upload control. We are giving a file upload control here. User can upload a photo. If he wants to upload more photos, then he will click a more button. When he clicks the more button, this upload control should duplicate. Another will come. That means user clicks more, then one more will be added. That means you must able to create a control dynamically and add that control to the page. For that, we need a form array. By using form builder have an array method. You can manage this. You can add controls, you can remove controls. For example, for every control, we will put a remove option. We will put a remove option so that that control can be removed if I don't want. So how we can extend a form like this? We have to see. Let's see. Now for that, we need to design the form. It is compiled. Let's go in the output and see. So we have 4200. Okay. Now in this form, we will clean up these details. Yeah. In this form, we just give only one container. Yeah. Accessing details is nothing different here. Now what we will do is, in this form, that is the design, after stock, we will add one file upload option. All right. Now here, stock details, after stock details. So here in the reactive form, we designed a form here. This is by using form builder. In this, we will create another field called here. We'll create another field called suppose new controls. New controls is an option. So it is of what type? New controls is, it is of type. It is of type this dot fb dot array type. Array means it is a collection of controls. It is of array type. Or you can give any name. Because here we are using photos, we will give photos. Photos is an array type. Photos is an array type. Array of what? It can be array of only controls. It is not any array of string. It is not any array of numbers. So form array is only a collection of controls. That means it is not a collection of any other type. So it is a collection of controls. Not string, not number. It is a collection of controls. So in this, there can be only control. As of now, there are no controls. I will put one control by default. That means how to add a control. This dot fb dot control. That's how we create control. It's empty. It is an array. Array means you have to enclose in a square brace. Right? That means now we created photos. Photos is an array. It is an array of controls. How many controls currently it is having? One. It is having one control. Okay. Now this photos we want to access. And we want to use these photos in the form. Already I told you yesterday, if we want any element to be accessed from a form, every time you need a lengthy hierarchy. What we have to do, we have to refer the form and we have to refer the control. What I will do here is I will create an accessor for this to individually deal with this array. We want to individually deal with that array. Then what we will do, we will create an accessor. So getter. By using get, I will give product photos. Okay. That is an accessor name. what this accessor have to do? It should return this field, photos field. That means we have to access this dot FRM register. FRM register have a method get. Get which control? We have to define the control name. Control name is what? Photos. That is the field we have to get and return. And what the field name is given as string. That means obviously this will return a string. But it is not a string. It is what type? Array. It is array type. We have to return this products photos as array. That means you need to define as form array. We have to define form array. So that is how you need to configure the accessor. So now this photos field you can access easily with the reference of photos. But remember, this photos array is not an ordinary array. It returns controls. That means it have a collection of controls. We have to access those controls and use them. So, okay, product photos are there. Now what I will do here, let's go in the design. Here, after the stock details, these are the stock details. Here I will create a data list, a data term. Here I will say upload photo. And here data definition, how to upload a photo. To upload a photo, remember photo field is in an array. We have to read the controls from the array. So we have to write an iterator. What is it? So ng for let item of collection. Collection is what? Product photos. In that dot controls, that is the collection. Product photos is not an array directly. It is an array of controls. So the controls in that array you can access by using the reference called controls. Product photos is an array property. That array have a collection of controls. Now we are reading every control, and we will do one more. We will declare, because every control you will generate, that's fine. But every control should have a unique name. Every control should have a unique name. In an iteration, if you give any name, same name will be used by all. Suppose now for every item, we have to create a control. Which control? We have to create a label. So label is already there. Here we have to just define input type is equal to file. What should be the name of the control? I will give form control name. Form control name. What name I give? If I give any name, then the same name will repeat. Because if you give a standard name, second, third, fourth, every time it will be same. Then what we will do is, we will declare let I is equal to index. We know that ng for have a index property. Through this I, we will apply this name here. That means the form control name will be 1, 0, 2, 3. Automatically it will be changing the index number, right? So this is the update photo option available. Now in the form you can see there is update photo. So I will give upload photo. Upload photo. Okay. So you see upload photo is there. Now only one item is there, because the form array contains only one. By default, the form array, what is that array? Photos. it contains only one control. So one file upload control came. Now we will do one thing. So here at upload photo, we will put a button and we will say more. Right? I will give the option more. And here we will give button class as BTN and BTN link. It looks like a link button, right? So now on this button click, on click of this button, we will execute a function called add photos. Okay. Now add photos function should fire up when user clicks on it. Then we will write a function here. What is the function add photos? Add photos is a method. What this method have to do is, it should add one more control into this array. Into that array, we need to add one more control. Then how do we do that? This dot product photos, it is an array. Into that, we will use push. You know that adding new elements into array, push. What to push? A form control have to be pushed. This dot FB dot control. A new control is pushed into it, right? That's how we are configuring. That means whenever add photos clicked, then one more photo will be added. You can see now. So I click on more, then one more should be added. So okay, one more is added. We don't want to submit the form as of now. No submitting. Submit and update I will remove. Submit and update actions I will remove. We don't need this. We are just learning about extending the form. So this also we will remove. Okay, right. Now you can see here, you have only one option. Submit also not there. Remove this form submitter. Yeah. So we are removing form submit. Fine. Now you can see upload photo. One option is there. You click on more, then one more will be added. So depends on how you configured it. Suppose this upload photo, I will just put here as a class as margin bottom as some 2 or 3. So little space will come here. More, now one more will be added. I click on more, then one more will be added. That means we can dynamically add controls into the form. If I want to remove, you can tell this now. Suppose I want to remove, then what we will do? Below, beside this, we will put another button and we will say remove. And I am just giving the class as BTN and BTN link I am giving. And you can see I will give here class as input group. So input group, this we have to give another class as form. This is file. Actually that form control. Actually that width is less. I will give the width as some 6 or 7. That will be better. You can see now it will be like this. So now you have upload photo button, upload photo, one more will be added. Now I want to remove, I click on this remove, that should be removed. Then you know already how to do that. We will write another function. What is that function is remove photo. Remove photo, it is expecting index number. We learnt already how to remove specific index. That means it is expecting index, any type I just define. Now when this button is clicked. What is that? Remove button is clicked. This is the remove button. On this button click. What we have to do is we have to write remove click. Now which one? Remove photo. The function name is remove photo. Into this remove photo we will pass I index number. Already we are using I for iteration. We will use I for index number. Now it is done. Now we will save this. And you can see now we will collect that index number and remove. How to remove? So this dot product photos. How to remove from an array? We can use splice. So we have to use splice. Actually, splice is used for removing array, but this is not ordinary array. This is actually controls array. It is a collection of controls. So you cannot use slice and splice for controls. Then we have to use an option remove at. It uses index number. Remove at index number. Remove at just index number. Index number, whatever the index we have passed into it, that we have to define. So that means generally to remove from an array splice, that's fine. But here it is a controls array. Controls array we can add push, same, no change, push. So and to remove there is no slice or splice. We have to remove by using remove at index number. Then you can see I am adding the more, and here I click remove, it will be removing that, and I click remove, it is gone. We want to upload photos, then we can add the photos here. That means dynamically we are adding the controls. So you can dynamically extend the form. You can add new, you can remove by using form array. This is the concept of working with array. So array is a collection of controls. Two important things here. To add new controls into form array, then you have to use push. To remove controls from array, from form array, you have to use remove at. Remove at, it uses an index. These are the two important options for controlling the array. So that is simple example here, right? So what we have done, one is, first step, we have created a collection of controls inside the form as form array, right? And by default, one control is kept inside that array. In order to access this directly, so you have to create an accessor. Through the accessor, you need to access the controls. So it is an array. We have to push and we have to remove. And it is an array. In order to present that array, we are using simple iterator here. ng for let item, and we are reading. And every form control must have a form control name. To define the form control name, we are using index number because control name cannot be common, right? This is the example for that. So reactive form demo dot component dot ts. This is the form code. Remember, all these you have to import at the top. Because you are using Visual Studio Code, whenever you write, automatically they are imported. But if accidentally or some technical issue, if they are not imported, then what we have to do manually, we have to import. That means from Angular forms, you have to import form builder, form array. And when you are using form builder, form array, you don't need form control and form group. Form control, form group are required only when you are dealing with disconnected forms. Right. So this is the code. I am adding that here. Another reactive form, reactive demo.component.html. In HTML, this is the logic. We are adding the options and configuring them. That is the point. Next, one more important topic you need to learn here is validating reactive forms. Same. In the user interface, everything is same. Only the point is to validate reactive forms. What you have to do is you have to use validators. Validators class provides all validation properties. That means required, min length, max length, pattern. All those validation properties are provided by this one. You can use the validators class and you can simply verify. For example, see, I will create a separate form here. Remove all this part. And we will use a simple remove all this. Just we have to create a form. Okay. Everything is removed. We are injecting the form builder and we are creating a form. So FRM register, this is equal to this dot fb dot group. In this group, we are adding the controls. I will say username. Username we have to configure as an array because every field is represented as an array because it will take multiple values, multiple features. Like first it will accept value, what value you want to give into the control. Then it have validators collection. That means we have to use validators. Validators, which validation you want. You see all validations are available. We will use required validator. If you want to set another validation, comma, you have to define again validators dot min length. Min length is a method. So how many characters? 4. That is how you can write the validations for every control. Previously, the validations are defined in the UI. Now here the validations are defined here in the controller directly. So I want another field, then I will just define mobile and default value is empty and it will contain a collection. If you are writing only one, you can just put directly. So we have validators, it is required, and another validators, so it is pattern. We can use a pattern. Generally, pattern, how to build a pattern? Pattern is a regular expression. Regular expression means, suppose how do we write regular expression? Slash plus 91. So slash D and 10 digits number like this. We have to define in this way. So we are configuring the regular expression and defining the regular expression. Actually, this is the form field with validators. Now how to attach this? you know how to design a form now. So we have to create register user, and here we need to design simple. I will keep a data list with a data term username, and here we need to bind with a text box. Input type is equal to text, but before that we need a form now. We'll put a form, and to bind to this form we have to use form group. Form group, so that is FRM register, that is the form group. And in this binding is same, what form control name, form control name, it is user name. Right. Now similarly another option, another data term, so mobile, and data definition input type is equal to text, and form control name, form control name is equal to mobile. And we will keep a button, so register button, and a class BTN and BTN primary, like this. Now very important here, validations you don't need to write here. That means actually we have to write the validations inside the control, required, min length and all. No need. Once you bind a form control, whatever validations are there, it will take them. Then how to display validation messages, that is same. Validation messages you have to show in the same way how you have done in template form. But how to access this username mobile, they are not directly available. They are the members of FRM register. In that case, how to configure them, that means how we can handle them. You can see they are not available. They are not directly available. That means username and all directly not available. Go to inspect, and in the inspect you can see this console. You have problem. Our problem is validator. So validator is nothing but actually regular expression is not a string. It is a string, but you know that regular expressions are enclosed in double slash. Huh? You learned in JavaScript, right? Regular expressions are enclosed in 2 slashes. Regular expression type we cannot define as a string type. Now it is fine. Now important is, usually when you are dealing with these form fields, validating these fields directly not possible. For example, see, suppose I will write here, so for this data definition, this should add when username is invalid. Then already we know how to use ng if, what is it, username dot invalid, if username is invalid, but it is not available. It is not available because this is not configured here. It is not a template form. In template form, it is configured in the UI, so you can access in the UI. It is configured where? In the controller. In the controller, is it directly available? It is not directly available. It is a member of which one? FRM register. So if you want to deal with every field individually, handling validations, compulsory, for every field you need an accessor. For every field you need an accessor if you are dealing with validations for every field. So what you have to do here, you have to create user name. It is an accessor. What this username have to return this dot FRM register dot get. What is the field name? Username. It is of what type? As it is as a form control. It is form control. Na? It is a form control. So then if username is treated as a form control, then the validators can work. Similarly, another user, that what is it? Mobile. So this mobile return this dot FRM register dot get, and it should get mobile as form control. We have to return as form control. Then you can access them individually here. Otherwise we cannot. That means if username is invalid, you can write multiple conditions also. What are the multiple conditions? We already learned now. That means, so form FRM register dot what submitted and username is invalid, like this we are using. And you see this FRM register dot submitted, so this is again not available. It is not again available. Then again you need to configure accessors and define it, right? I will give one example. While posting we will do that. APIs, when you are posting, we will design one that. So because how to design a form, some changes made now. In 14 I told you that we have typed forms, we will see them. But initially this FRM register is a form group. Now here if username is invalid, we are reading that two messages should come. What is it? One is name required. Another message is name too short. Okay, min 4 characters. Okay, and this we will put a class. We will put a class called text danger. Text danger is the class. Now important is this too should display according to validation. Validation property is same. What is this? Ng if username dot, we have to access all the errors by using errors dot, what is the error property? Error property is required. If it is required, then this should come. Similarly, so how do we define here? Ng if, and if username dot errors dot, if it is min length, then this should display. That means now we need to configure that and display. I am entering the username, name too short. I am entering correctly, it is satisfied. So validations are defined through reactive forms. But remember, error message is compulsory, you have to write. But what we have reduced here is the binding of errors to this control. Control is not having any validation. Control is not configured with any validation in UI. Its validation is defined inside the form. And I hope you know same how to write for mobile, you know, right? You can write for mobile also. For mobile, what we have to do? Required. Another one is pattern. But same thing you have to follow. So technically, validating reactive forms requires the validators class. And it is configured in which level? It is configured in the controller level. Right? In the UI, it will be very simple. Control will be simple. But showing messages, there is no other way. You have to show by using these logics only. We need to define by using this logic. So technically, when you are working with form validations, these are the options. So this is reactive form validations. Here one more extra thing is, so every form element defined with validators must have an accessor to handle individually. That means what you have to do is you have to create some username, and you have to return, right? You have to return this dot form name dot get and username as what? Form control. You have to return everything. Then you can handle the validators. Otherwise, you cannot configure the validation. So this is example for reactive validations. Reactive demo dot component dot ts. Just we added a simple form group here, and we defined the accessors. And reactive demo dot component dot html. In the UI, we have to bind and display. For mobile, I haven't written. You can write. So validation same as we defined for username. Custom validations anywhere same. That means if validations are to be defined for drop downs, checkbox, and radios, we have to write custom validation. Custom validation is our own. Everywhere it is same. Right? We have to write the custom validation by using events, by accessing the values from the controls and defining. So this is all about the forms in Angular. We have template driven forms and we have reactive. Majority of interviews, your mostly Angular interviews, questions will be on reactive forms. So reactive forms. What is form builder? What is form array? How to update complete form? How to update specific portion of the form? So these are very regular questions, right? How we can define validations? So validators, right? So majority, almost in every Angular interview at experience level, you will have questions on reactive forms. And as I told you that the new version have some changes, which we will see at the end. So because we need to update complete Angular now. So technically, these are all about forms. Now, once you know forms, you know how to collect the data and how do you submit the data. Okay. Now we will design with APIs and interactions. For this navigation, we have to learn one more very important concept, that is routing, right? Now in Angular, we have to discuss about routing. After understanding the forms, now very important is routing. Actually, in web technologies, that means when you are working with web technologies. So web technologies use lot of techniques. Web technologies use lot of techniques. They use lot of techniques. Some techniques you already learned. Like you have techniques like data binding. We have techniques like event binding. We have techniques like class binding. We have like style binding. These are all considered as techniques actually. So we have like model binding. We have like security. We have like caching. We have like one is routing. Yeah. These are all techniques in web applications. Traditionally, almost all web applications will have this. Almost all web applications will have various types of techniques. Like another, like state management. These are all techniques of web application. Generally, web application depends on lot of such techniques. Complete web application depends on various techniques. Data binding, event binding, class binding, style binding. Right? Now, I am telling about these are all techniques of web application. I am not telling about Angular. General web application, web technologies uses lot of techniques. Right? Now, caching, routing, state management, securities, so model binding, style binding, these are all techniques. Every technique is used for a different purpose. So what is routing? That means routing, if anyone asks what is routing generally. So routing is a technique implemented in web applications. And for what purpose we implement this technique? What is the intention of technique? So technically, what is routing? What is routing? That means, so here the point is, the answer is, it is a technique. It is a technique used in web applications, not only in Angular. Every web application knows this routing technique. So Java applications, .NET applications, PHP applications, Python applications, they can use routing. We can have client-side routing, we have server-side routing. Client-side routing we are learning. Server-side also they use routing. That means these days web applications use this routing technique regularly. And every technology uses routing which is related to web. Server side they use routing, but we are learning client side routing. So it is a technique used in web application to handle navigation. What is the specialty of this routing technique? Generally we handle navigation without routing using links and all. By using links and all we handle navigation. Then what is the specialty of this? That means without routing, we handle this by using hyperlinks. We can put an hyperlink and navigate from one inter-document navigation. So what is the advantage of routing is, actually routing uses AJAX techniques. Routing uses AJAX techniques. Internally it uses AJAX techniques. Routing uses AJAX techniques. What is advantage of AJAX technique is, so without reloading the complete page, new details are added to page. Without reloading the complete page, the complete page, the new details are added to page. That means it uses internally AJAX techniques. What is the specialty of AJAX techniques is, if you want any new details, it will not load all the details again. It will update only what you need. It will get and display only what you need. Another important specialty is, user can stay on one page and can get access to everything. User can stay on one page and can get access to everything onto the page. User can stay on only one page and can get access to everything onto the page. That's what the routing is. That means this enables single page application. So that means single page application. Single page application means many people have this wrong confusion about this. As in the beginning itself I told you, many people call single page application multi-page application. That is wrong, right? This is single page application means entire website only one page. That is senseless, right? You have a login page, you have a registration page. That means so many pages will be there. Single page application is not about how you design pages. It is about how you access pages. That means generally in other applications, traditional web application, you navigate from one page to another. If you want to bring the content of another page in the current page, you have to depend on AJAX. Now single page application, it allows you to stay on one page and get access to everything onto the page. So that is what single page application is. And you can achieve this type of infrastructure now using routing. By implementing routing, you can design a perfect single page application. That means as of now, what we were doing all these days, every component we are creating separately. And if you want to access any component, we have to go to startup and keep it. No, it's not like that. In index page, show the complete navigation. That means in index page, display everything. That means what you have to do is, in index page, you need to just create a simple navigation. That means you create login, you create register, you create products like this. Now when user clicks login, then the login screen should come here. When user clicks register, the register should come here. Actually, they are present separate. They are separate pages, separate components. That means they are separate components. Then what you are doing is, you are bringing those components and loading here. So without navigating from index page, user will stay on only index page and everything comes onto that page. This is possible by implementing routing. That is possible by implementing routing. So routing is very important for designing single page application. So routing is a technique. By using this technique, we can handle navigation in the web application. It introduces single page technique. Internally, it uses AJAX. All routing related methods are AJAX. How this routing works, the basic architecture you have to know. Let's see. Means how the basic routing works. Actually, when you are working with routing, see, suppose we will go to the routing here. First, let's take here. So what is the basic routing architecture? Let's see. Actually, here I will add how the process works. Suppose this is client. We have a client. Okay. When client makes a request, the request will come to web server. The client request comes to web server. So the client request comes to web server. Actually, this is web server, or we call it as HTTP server. Web server or HTTP server. The client request will come to web server, or we call it as HTTP server. Yeah. That is the server. Yeah. Now what happens is, this web server or HTTP server, they actually contain a HTTP processing pipeline. It contains a processing pipeline. HTTP processing pipeline. We have a HTTP processing pipeline. So this HTTP processing pipeline will handle the requests actually. In this HTTP processing pipeline, we have a HTTP handler. HTTP handler. This HTTP handler is responsible for handling all the requests on server. All the requests are handled by this HTTP handler. So actually, when client makes a request, so client is making a request. When client makes a request, so the request will come to web server. The request will be processed in processing pipeline. And in that processing pipeline, you will have a handler. We call it as an HTTP handler. This handler is responsible for handling the request from the client. That means it is going to manage the requests like GET, It is going to manage the request like post. All the requests are handled by this handler. It is going to handle the request by using handler. Now what happened from client side, request comes like this. Suppose it will come like /login. That means from the client request comes /login. Before / what is there, you know, localhost, server name and IP address and all login. Now actually this is your Angular application. So this is our Angular application. This is the Angular application. In this Angular application, we usually have, in this Angular application, we have a lot of components like login, like register, like home. So many components will be there. These are all the components of this particular application. Now what happens is, every application will prepare a table. We call this table as route table. Every Angular application will have a route table. This route table contains information about what are the paths, what are the components available in application. That means it contains information about what are the components that can be served by the application. That means login, that is the path. On that path, which component to deliver, which component, login component. If it is /home, which component to deliver, home component to deliver. That means this route table contains information about the path and the component to deliver. It is a table. It is a table. It is a collection of route paths and components. Now, when client makes a request, the request comes to handler. Handler uses a special engine. Handler uses a special engine. We call this engine as routing engine. Handler uses a special routing engine. What this routing engine will do is, it will handle the request. That means it will take the request from the client. It will verify whether the requested path is there in the route table or not. If the requested path is there in the route table, if it is there in the route table, then Angular application loads that component into the memory. It will load the component into the memory. It will load that component into memory. After loading the component into memory, then what routing engine will do is, it will render that component to the handler. Handler will send this as a response to the client. That is how the process works. If anything requested by client, routing engine manages 200. 200 means okay. Routing engine manages 404. 404 means not found. Like this, it will handle the request. If anything you requested and it is not available in the route table, then it will be rejected. Then it will send a message not found. That means here two important options are there, the routing engine and the route table. That means in an Angular application, already components are there. Now what we have to do extra? Here what we have to do extra, we have to create a route table. After creating the route table, this route table will be used implicitly by routing engine. This you don't need to do anything. If you create a route table, that is enough. It will handle the request. Routing engine will take care in the background. Right? every Angular application so works with this scenario. I will just save this routing. I will share this in the classroom. So this is the basic approach, how the routing works, right? How it is handled and how it is managed. Now, what is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to create this table. Actually, route table is nothing but, so it is, table means how you will create a table. You have to create a table. Routes is an array. Routes is an array. That routes array contains a collection of objects which contains what is the path, and on that path what is the component to deliver. Component to deliver. What is the path, what is the component to deliver, we have to design. That means we have to design this routes collection, and this is responsible for serving the path. That means you will start with only index page, and in that page you will design a startup component. From there everything can be accessed. That means user will stay at only one place and get access to everything. But where this route table is maintained? So route table is maintained in a separate app routing module. It is maintained in a routing module. In every application, we have to create one routing module. This routing module is responsible for handling the entire route table. It is responsible for handling the route table. So app routing module is the file. It is a TypeScript file. It is a general TypeScript file. Now in this file, all the features are configured. All the features are defined and configured. Now, actually, when you are creating a project, it asks you, do you want routing? But we have ignored it. We said that we will add whenever we need it, right? But once you are configuring the routing, once you are defining the routing, even you create application, later you can add routing whenever you want. You have to just add a new file. We can add a new file, and you can just configure the file manually. So you can add at the time of creating application, or simply you can define so manually. But here again, so many questions will be there. How you configure the routes and define. For that we need actually routing is one concept which have lot of issues. Lot of technical issues are there in the routing concept. Generally, see, that is the reason one small thing you will see. I will tell you one fact. So in many interviews, anybody may ask you, so what happened to Angular 3 version? Because there is no 3 version in the history of Angular. There is no 3 version in the history of Angular. That means we have Angular first release was 2. Before Angular it was AngularJS. After that Angular 2, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, 9. So 10, we have 11 also, we have 12 also, we have 13 also. Now 14, but there is no 3 missing, right? So actually that intentionally Angular has missed that version because of routing only. The main cause was that is because of routing. Why because of routing? Nothing but actually what happened in Angular 2, they introduced this routing with some features. Already Angular have routing, they added routing, but in this routing some issues are there. Some technical issues developers face. Then what they have done is, so actually routing library is separate. Angular router's library is separate, and the main library for Angular is Angular core. Angular core was 2 and the router was 2. Later what they have done is separately they changed the router version to 3 separately, because Angular 2 routing has issues. Then before the new version of Angular came, they have to change routing, remove completely and add new features. They have to completely reconstruct this routing. Then what they have done, previous version which have issues, they removed and they added 3. Now after few days, next version of Angular have to come. That means that will be Angular 3. In that again routing will be there. Now routing version will be 4. Because already it is 3 done. Then next version should be 4. That means now this will continue forever. Like Angular version is 3, routing is 4. Angular version 4, routing will be 5. This will continue forever. So they decided that, okay, we will wrap this here itself. So we will not release version 3, we will directly make it as 4. That is only the point. That means you don't have a 3 version in Angular. Why we don't have 3 version in Angular? Just because they ignored it. So the version number ignored because they want to continue the correct versioning for entire library. Otherwise, one library version different, another library in the same application, it causes a lot of issues. So that is the reason they want to wrap everything with the same version. So they skipped the 3 version of Angular and they directly made it as 4. So that routing also will be 4 in the next. So after 2, directly 4. Right? That is because of routing. Even today, routing is one concept which is not completely satisfied with all features. So some issues are still there, but we use alternative techniques to address those issues, alternate techniques to address the issues. But up to whatever the features they provided, we will use them, we will handle them. So others we have to implement manually, right? So now we will see how to create an application with routing. That means how to build a single page application. So in that single page application, user will stay on index. From there, he will get access to everything. That we will see in next session. Right? Tomorrow in a new session, we will see about routing. So it is a big concept. At least 2-3 sessions we need to spend on this complete routing to understand. We will create a separate project. We will create a new project and we will see how the routing works in it, right? Tomorrow we will continue.